We blame the whites for the slave trade we went through. We blame the whites that they offended us. They took us as slaves. But let's wait for a minute. Who sold the black man to the whites? Who sold the black man to the whites? Our own traditional leaders. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is within.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to AfriPost. I believe wherever you're watching us from, you're doing great. Now, the question of Africa's independence and self-determination is something that has been talked about by many people. In fact, there have been those who are saying that Africa is being brought down by the Western powers because, as we know it, the colonialists came to Africa, divided us into different partitions, and then left to really have puppets whom they have imposed in our countries to have control of our continent. Remember, most of the presidents that we have really aligned themselves and are singing allegiance to these Western powers. Those countries in the Sahel region are trying to break away from the grip of France. They are those that are within the Commonwealth Union, where leaders are always gathering together to pay homage and respect to the king. So one question that most African scholars have really grappled with is, where is the problem in Africa? Is it a problem of leadership? Is it a problem of Western powers? Is it a problem of the African people by themselves? But then to this question, people tend to have different answers. And in this video, I want us to really have a different perspective because I came across this sermon by Bishop Samuel N Mensah from Ghana. And he was talking about this sermon titled "The Enemy is Within." And he kind of highlighted some challenges that Africa has gone through and how Africans and people within the African continent have been the key leaders and enablers of these atrocities to be committed in Africa. For instance, he cites slave trade. Talking about slave trade, he says that this is a problem that happened and Africans were collaborators. I want us to watch this video and then let's react to it after the video. Kindly watch.
Look at our traditional leaders and the slave trade. We blame the whites for the slave trade we went through. We blame the whites that they offended us. They took us as slaves. But let's wait for a minute. Who sold the black man to the whites? Who sold the black man to the whites? Our own traditional leaders. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is within. If we are asking the Europeans to pacify us and also to apologize to us, our traditional leaders must be the first to apologize on behalf of their ancestors for the evil they have done against their fellow blacks. Look at our attitude towards the environment and the destruction of our water bodies. All our river bodies have turned into dark brown. And you know what they said? In the next 20 years, if we don't stop this illegal mining, Ghana, we will import water to drink. Yet we don't care. And Chinese, they will come from their country into our forest, destroy our forest, destroy our land, and illegally mine and damage our waters. How can they come if the traditional leaders didn't give them permission to do that? And in one instance, while they were dead, our military went there to protect them. Our own military that is supposed to protect us rather protected the foreigners to destroy our water and destroy our forest. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. If you look at our own systems and structures in our country, we don't have a better system to improve the lives of people. Pastor, I was surprised when I read in China, they had a 10-year vision, and they said from 2011, their vision was that in 10 years from 2011, and 10 years from 2011 will be what year? This year, 2021, that they will raise over 20% of the people to become multi-millionaires. Now in 2021, they have 1.8 million Chinese who are multi-millionaires in China, and they are between the age of 40 to 50 years. Multi-millionaires. The government intentionally decided that they would make sure they will have 20% of the population multi-millionaires. They also agreed that they will make sure that they will lift up the poorest of the poor. And they lifted 100 million people from begging to live a better life. But in this country, in our country, we fight our own businessmen. Our government will fight our business people. When they know that your business is thriving and they know that perhaps you are not sympathetic towards the running party or the ruling party, they will fight you, collapse your company, and make you poor. When in China, they want to make the people rich. In Africa, we want to make our own people poor. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is within. Look at our African leaders. How much they stole, the money they stole away. We are told in Gambia, Jamal Yaha, he stole 11 million US dollars from his own country, Gambia. Sani Abacha stole between 1 billion to 5 billion dollars out of Nigeria. Hosni Mubarak stole 17 million US dollars in 8 years. The enemy is not outside. The enemy to our own progress is within. Look at our presidents, the presidents who were fighting for our independence, what we did to them. In Togo, the man who fought for the independence of Togo, called Sylvanus Olympio, when Togo got independence, he decided that they would not use the French franc, the French CFA. They decided they will have their own Togo currency. And you know what? They used Iyadema to kill him and to get rid of him. When Olympius wanted to make Togo great, the enemy within, the Judas within, killed him. In Burkina Faso, the man who gave them independence, Maurice Yamego, was eliminated by his own people. When Thomas Sankara came, his own body group killed him and got rid of him. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. You look at our own country, Kwame Nkrumah started a new vision to develop Ghana, and who undermined him from within? They threw him out by Kotoka. Today we celebrate Kwame Nkrumah, but the own Judas will damage him. I pray that the man who organized that coup to betray Kwame Nkrumah, and for us to name our airport after him, Kotoka International Airport, I think we should start a national conversation to change the name of the Kotoka International Airport, because as long as that name is, we have endorsed coup, we have endorsed enemies that will fight the progress of our nation. We must change the name of Kotoka International Airport to Kwame Nkrumah International Airport. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. We need to ask God to give us a new character. Let's change our behavior and have new values, because the person will be smiling with you, smiling with you, yet he will stab you at the back. How can you have a father who wants to destroy your life? Yet in Africa we have governments that do not want to make the people or improve the lives of the people. When in overseas, their governments have created an environment for every citizen to be better. Why is it that our governments can't think about the welfare of the citizens, and we kill the businesses of our own people?
Now, after watching that video, what is your opinion about the challenges that Africa is going through? Because one of the things that is really evident there is that most of our leaders, most of the leaders who are true to Africa, have really been brought down by their close friends. They have been brought down by people who are within their inner circles. Who is it that can really bring Africa down if it is not the collaborating leaders that we have? You know, just as the preacher has said, our leaders have really sold us out. And the lack of vision to really make Africa grow, most of our leaders have really sold us out. Africa in itself was supposed to develop as a continent, not as different countries as it is. People like Kwame Nkrumah came with good ideas in 1963. When they were in that meeting in Addis Ababa, Kwame Nkrumah said that Africa gaining independence as divided partitions will not really bring greatness to the continent. But Africa as itself should delay, all other countries should delay their independence until the whole Africa is left to get its own independence and live together as a people from one continent. But this was something that was opposed by many people. Other presidents and other leaders of different countries were compromised by Western powers, and they really did not support the question that Kwame Nkrumah was kind of proposing. And this is why Africa has continued to have conflicts without any peace within itself. I want to ask something here. Look at countries like in France, like in Europe. Europe does not have a conflict that is instigated between countries. But if you look at Africa, you realize that countries are having tensions in different parts, and terrorism is something that does not perpetuate itself continuously in European countries or even in United States. But if you look at Africa, there are certain sections of our continent that are continuously under hold of terrorist organizations, and they're not leaving anytime soon. Why are these terrorists surviving? If the whole globe is said to be united against terrorism, it is because, as Claire Daly says, Western powers are funding and paying warlords in Africa and coming back through the back door to claim that they want to bring peace to us. And this is how they lead to our collapse. Another thing is that Western powers collaborate with our leaders, and they continue to really steal from the continent. They continue to take the best minerals and the best produce out of our continent, and then they take them to their countries and leave us in impoverished conditions. So this is something that is really debatable here. Like right now, close to 50 presidents from Africa are headed to Italy because the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni kind of promised some fund close to 3 billion euros, and most African countries are rushing there to really go and get a piece of it. And if you really look at how they are going there, they do not have the interest of African people at heart. That is why most of our presidents continue to really pick debts and chokehold the citizens without even thinking of what is going to happen to the country in future and even the future generation. So one thing that I tend to agree with the bishop there is that Africa has its own enemies. Most of those who bring Africa down are people from within. And until we really get a strategy through which we can eliminate such snitches out of our continent, out of our countries, Africa will continue to be a third world continent. Because regardless of the resources that we have, regardless of the power that we have, regardless of the education that we have, there will be no easy way through which we can survive and have a better society and even the continent at large. So I don't know what you think about this, but one thing I must say is that Africa must realize that it is time to wake up, and it is time to really do great things and be great for ourselves. If you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video and share, and also please give us your comment down in the comment section. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.